tier list time, this time looking into the Nature Tomes. In general, I like the Nature Tomes. I think quite a few of them are very strong. I like to include several of them in my builds. Compared to the Materium Tomes, that's the last tier list video I made, I would say that the Nature Tomes are in general a little bit weaker. I tend to place more of the Nature Tomes down in the C or even the D tier than I did with the Materium Tomes, but you will find there are some strong options for us still available in this domain. Let's take a look at each one of them one by one. Let's start with the Tome of Roots. We get a mana and food building herbalist here, giving an adjacency bonus to forest and swamp, and that's very easy to achieve. It's easy to just find that on the map in general, but if you go somewhat deep into the Nature Tomes, you have several ways to produce forest on your own. So toward the mid game, I'd say this, you could look at this herbalist and say that's a +15/+15 building. Were very good, and also you see there you're healing a little bit more in your own domain, and I like that extra when it comes to Nature Tomes, because when you're going deep into the Nature Tomes, you might find yourself going for an expansion victory. And that's about defending your own territory toward the end. So every bonus that helps you in your own domain is quite good if it's placed on the Nature Tomes, I have found. Regarding the unit enchantments, they are very similar to other tier tome enchantments. What I can say here is there are a few ways to get blight resistance, 3 more specifically. There is the Naga transformation gives you +2 blight, and Whiteborn, let's see if I can see that here. The Undead gives you +2 blight resistance, and then also if you pick up the steel skin there from the Materium Tomes. So there are a few ways to get resistance to this type of damage that we do from this tome, but not that much. So I think this is absolutely decent. I like the status with poison as well. Sometimes more damage is the best way to survive. If the enemy is dead, they can't attack you back. Other than that, I don't like that much in this tome. Yes, this Vine Prison was once really strong, where they had a lot of health. They have been nerfed a little bit. Still a decent spell, or actually it's very good in the early game, but eventually you won't be using this, I think, in the mid to late game. There are other really good options if you're running a ranged build and you want to prohibit the enemy from advancing to you. But yeah, decent spell. Not very impressed with the healing roots. Sure, it's a good single target healing, but it won't be relevant for that long into the game, I found. And you have a decent unit here that will, it's a skirmisher that will transform into a good tier 3 plant unit. So yeah, a decent tome. And I only gave it a decent rating. Let's place it here. I gave it a B. It does fit in some of my builds. I can't give it higher because I feel like some of the other alternatives we have for tier 1 tomes simply beat this one. But it's decent. It finds its way into a few builds here and there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Tome of Beasts. I want to love this tome because it's quite niche, but I don't like it. What does it have? It has a wildlife sanctuary SPI that gives you a little bit of food and some drafts. Once again, adjacency to forests, which you're able to do, and it gives you some animal units to recruit, but not that important in my opinion. You get better animals later on. Yeah, I'm not very impressed with this. I'm not very impressed with the Wild Speaker. A tier 2 unit, he's good early game, sure, but not gonna be relevant in the end. I like to be picking stuff that will be helpful to me later on as well. And why not? if there are other alternatives that give me that option, I would rather take that. So what do we have in this tome? We have two things that I really like, and that is the minor race transformation here, giving you not only damage but critical hit chance. And then we also have a really good early game spell giving you distracted, which makes it so that all your attacks are flanking attacks. So when is this tome relevant? Well, when you go animals, sure. Yes, you see here there's a prerequisite to get the animal kinship having to do with animal. Before, a cavalry unit was considered an animal, making this very easy to achieve, but it has been nerfed, and now you these days you need an actual animal on its own, not just a horse attached to another unit. So it's a little bit more difficult to achieve. That's why I don't like this tome that much now. But it's really nice if you're going for a morale debuffing build, because each time you hit a critical hit, you will reduce the enemy's morale by -5. And each time you manage to do a flanking attack, you will decrease their morale by -3. So you have several options in this tome for a morale reducing build. So I have included this tome in one of my builds, such as that. But even then, I think it's on the weak side. It's just really these two I like. And the problem with the Marcus Prey spell is it's very good for the cost. Someone is distracted, everything is just doing way more damage to them, and they're losing a bunch of morale. And the Sunder defense, taking away 3 defense, 3 status resistance. You can really burst someone down quite well with this Marcus Prey. But toward the mid and late game, you don't have unlimited amount of spells you can cast, So do you really want to be utilizing your spell cast on a very light spell such as this one toward the mid and late game? I think not. I think you'd rather cast something else. So I would love for this tome to be good, because the contents in it make fit in a lot of cool builds, such as morale debuffing and animals and so on. But I think the developers should buff this tome. I think they should make it so that you don't have to necessarily be adjacent. Maybe you could be 2 tiles away or something to get this buff from an animal. And it would be nice if they increased the cost of the Marcus Prey spell quite a bit, and then instead made it an AoE from just a 1 hex AoE, a small AoE, but still, to just make it a little bit more relevant for longer in the game. It doesn't need to be a crazy good late game option as a tier 1 tome spell, but make it at least relevant in the mid game would be nice. Yes, other than that, a spell, but quite soon we will see very soon in a later tome we will be able to summon way better animals. So tier 2 animals, I'm not impressed with this, and so on. So unfortunately, this is the first C tier tome today. Even in the builds it's supposed to be good in, I think I just rather pick up the Tome of Roots, to be honest. So I'm sorry, I'd like to like this tome, but I don't. I think it's on the weak side. Tome of Fertility. What do we have here? We have a SPI that gives you a lot of food and a little bit of mana as well. Once again, only needing to be close to grasslands and fungal fields, which is quite easy to accomplish. So this will give you a lot of food and a little bit of mana as well. You have a city structure giving you a lot of food. Somewhere in the mid to late game you will have cities with 20 pop, and then this provides you with a ton of food. But how good is that? How good is having a bunch of food? Some people might say not very, considering there is after a while it just takes so much food for you to progress your city into one more tile, and that's true. But there are some cool cool things with having a lot of food in this game, and that's because it interacts nicely with some other tomes. Let us actually take a look. We'll go through this tome way more later on, but just for now, take a look at this. Here we have a building converting 10% of your food in a city to gold. And we can also take a look at here. We have another SPI converting 10% of your food into mana. So now, once again, I'll go back to these other tomes later on. But now we're talking about the Fertility Tome. There is some value to producing a bunch of food, which this tome does, because you will get mana and gold from it as well. So it has that thing going for it. But I will rank this quite low, and that's because yes, here we have a really good AoE spell giving you 3 regeneration, which can be great if you're hoping to be a healing build. There is one counter the enemy can do where they can inflict decaying on you to prevent you from healing. But then if you have some spell like this, you can counter their counter. You can say, oh, never mind you, I'd like to continue heal, thank you very much, I'll put down my Blossom of Life. But just compare, we're talking about the tier list here. We're comparing things to each other, and look at what this does. Here we have an AoE spell in a 2 hex radius giving us 3 generation. Keep that in mind for a second. And then you take a look at this spell instead. Same hex radius, a little bit less regeneration, 2 instead of 3. But we're also getting 2 grace. The grace is amazing. And we're getting 3 bolstered resistance, 3 bolstered defense. We're just getting so much more 2 tome levels down. So for that reason... Oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong tomes. For that reason, I'm not very impressed with this. The Floral Stinger was buffed very recently, so this spell is now quite decent, but it's still you still need to target a specific flora obstacle, which might not be present on every map, and you don't get this guy exactly where you need him. Sometimes you really want to place him somewhere, but there's no flora there. It only lasts for 3 turns. Some other spells put down a unit that lasts for the rest of the battle. Not very impressed. It is cheap. It is that. So, but yeah, and then lastly we get the Nymph. The Nymph is slow, 32 movement. And he has a really strong effect here, where he's able to seduce a person, to dominate them, completely take over the control of them. But I mean, here we have a tier 3 unit with a 60% chance of dominating someone. If you really like this effect with the dominate, why not? Why not just go with the Lightbringer instead? Here we have a Lightbringer with it's just a tier 2 unit, but with a 90% chance of causing dominated. And if it fails, it does 15 damage. If our Nymph fails, he only does... where was he? If unsuccessful, this unit is distracted. I would rather, way rather do 15 damage than cause distracted. So I think this is just... It's a tier 3 unit which gets outmatched by tier 2 units, in my opinion. So I'm not very impressed with much in this tome. So much so, I see the value of maybe just creating a bunch of food in order for you to get mana and gold from some other tomes that convert your food into other resources. I see that, but I still never find a reason to have this available in any of your builds. It just simply does too little for you. It just gives you some food, and that's not enough. The spells are lackluster. Everything is just not good enough. I never see a reason picking this tome. I realize we forgot about some tier 1 tomes. Let's step back a little bit and talk about the Tome of Alchemy. I mentioned this before in my Materium build tier list, considering it has Materium affinity as well. I will not go into details here a lot. I urge you to watch my other Materium Tome video, please do. But in general, it's a decent tome. This Mysterious Tonic is very good, but it's only affecting like 1 or maybe 2 units in your armies. So something that is just affecting a very small portion of your army. The Siege project not very good. It could be very useful in a magic material build, and there are a few things interacting with magic materials. So for that, this tome is quite good. It does have a nice knowledge SPI, so I can't rank it very low due to a really good knowledge SPI, and it's good in magic material builds. So it finds its way into actually it finds its way into the B tier, not the C tier. Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about the Tome of Evolution. So what do we have in this tome? No SPI, no special province for us. We have 1 minor race transformation giving us hit points. That's always nice. More so if you rank up your units, which could be valuable because several of my builds that I tend to make appreciate leveling up your units. There is a lot of strength in general to try to get your units to legendary rank. So in that case, this provides you even more value, giving us more hit points. So this I like, but that's pretty much all I like. So the community has been ranking this tome quite low, and I will unfortunately agree with them. I'll let you know my ranking soon enough. I'll just say that the spell, not very impressed. These units quite good, and they do evolve into decent tier 3 units. And we have another unit enchantment here being very helpful in the early game, but not at all toward the mid to late game when your units will no longer evolve anymore. It's just this only affects to them before they have evolved. After they have evolved, they are now a new unit that can't evolve further. So in that case, this won't help you out. But what I just said now is not completely true. If you like the young dragons from the Tome of Dragons, and you want to make a nice build with these guys, then I could consider the Rapid Evolution enchantment to be quite good, because then you would, for the majority of the game, you would have this. Eventually, when your cities turn to 10 pop, you would produce these tier 3 dragons, and then they will, toward the very late game, they would evolve into even better dragons toward the end. But so maybe something like that. But yeah, in general, this tome doesn't do much for you. It gives you a little bit of hit points. The units that transform here is good, but not the best. Sometimes you're just better off creating other units. So no SPI. It unfortunately gets a C tier treatment from me. Let us move on. Let us talk about the Tome of Mists. What do we have here? We have a pond. Mostly it's not giving you resources. It's giving you a nice city domain becoming misty effect, a very defensive bonus. Once again, I did mention there before, defensive stuff for your kingdom is extra valuable in a nature build, I think, because most likely you will be defending your own domain there toward the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, decent. What else do we have? We have, I think most of all, what this tome is giving you is a decent unit and this race transformation of interacting with the mist. Now let's take a look at the little guy we're getting. Yes, he's decent. He gives a random negative effect, and he is good at countering units that is able to retaliate, because this guy will jump back before they're able to retaliate strike you. And he's tiny, that's a good bonus, but he's not a form unit. You see, he doesn't get impacted by your major or minor race transformations, because this guy is his own race. And not only that, but once again, we're doing a tier list video where we compare units to each other, and I mean, there are some other really strong skirmishers, such as the Inquisitor. He was recently buffed. Instead of causing a negative status like the Mistling, this guy creates stunned. That's just a very powerful effect, and you're guaranteed to get the powerful effect. With the Mistling, you don't know what you get. And also, the Inquisitor will do more damage with his melee strike here. And he is, as you see here, he's a form unit that is getting all these advantages from race transformations that you pick up in other tomes. So, in general, Tome of Fey Mists, not super impressed by the Mistling. I think other skirmisher units are better. We got a good defensive stat here, but that's not very fitting for a tier 2 tome, you know. We would rather have a bunch of resources from our SPIs at this point. Toward the end of the game, that's when we might want to pick up some more defensive bonuses. First, we want to grab a bunch of land, and then we want to defend it. At this point in the game, we're still in the grabbing part, not the defending part. Fate Touched, yeah, I mean, it's a good ability that can be appreciated by many builds, but in general, I think once again other tomes offer more than what this tome offers. I have seen quite a few tier lists videos that they are talking about this tome, and some of them really like this tome and they place it in like A or a B tier, but I disagree here. Please let me know in the comments if I'm being rude, but I will be placing it into the C tier. Next tome, well, let's see, we talked about the Tome of Fertility, right? So now it's time for the Tome of Glades. I slept on this tome. I thought this was a mediocre to bad tome initially, but I've completely changed my mind. I now place it in the A tier. I like this tome a lot, and that's because you'll find when we go over the tier 4 tomes available to us in this Nature Affinity, you'll see that there are a lot of bonuses for frontline tanky boys when it comes to the plant faction and the Nature Affinity tomes. And this helps us out with just this. We're getting a building here giving us some city stability. That could be always welcome, a little bit of food as well, why not? But most of all, we're getting two things I really like. I really like the leaf skin minor transformation and the aspect of the root unit enchantment. Let's start by the leaf skin here. So I've explained it earlier in another video in my Materium Tome tier list. Let me actually place that on the right side, might be better. So I won't go into this in detail. I urge you to watch my other video with the Materium Tome tier list. But all in all, as your defense or resistance increase, your effective HP doesn't just increase in the same tempo, it's increasing more and more. So the difference between 10 and 11 resistance or defense is way more than the difference between 2 and 3, for example. You see here the increase in effective HP here in the beginning is like 12 or 14, but toward 10 and 11 the difference is 32, 35. So if we're stacking defense and resistance, we're really doing something nice. So every bit of resistance and defense matters in this game. So for that reason, I value the leaf skin more than perhaps other people that don't know about this. The forest walk is always nice. Movement in this game is crucial. The forest camouflage is also quite good. Forests are somewhat common in the open world map, so you'll find a forest or two, and if you don't, you have the option to just create a forest on a neutral province. It doesn't even have to be in your own friendly territory. You can create a forest in an unknown province and thus be able to hide your armies. And why I like the aspect of the root ability, it's just a self-heal for 30, and then it's putting you into defense mode. I like it more and more because usually a really good tactic in this game is to burst one unit down. That will affect the rest of your troops with negative morale from them having killed one of your guys and so on. And by killing someone outright, you will now have reduced the damage output by 20%. If they had 5 units to begin with and you remove one of them, you just remove 20% of their damage. But this is a counter to that. This is a great ability for not being bursted down. Strong single target heal that puts you in defense mode. And there's a lot of things interacting with defense mode now that more and more tomes have been added to the game. So this I really like. Yeah, works with shield units and polearm units. Great. Also, we have a decent archer that is able to be on a horse. That is uncommon. I think, if I remember correctly, the only other alternative if you want rangers on horses is if you play the Oathsworn faction, and more specifically the Harmony sub faction of it. So yeah, you might, if you're into a ranged build with a mounted archer, this is the tome for you as well. So for this reason, I find quite many reasons to pick this tome up. So I give it an 8 here. Here I also think I differ from other tier lists I've seen. I think most people tend to place this in the B tier, but I think it makes sense for many builds. Moving on, let's talk about, have we gone over all the tier 2 tomes? I think so, right? Yes. Sorry, let's move on. Let's talk about the Tome of Cycles. What do you get here? You're getting Blades of Decay. This is really nice. You see, this is just doing this. It doesn't have a check for the status resistance, which is huge. So if you're running a build where you don't have any tools to reduce the enemy's status resistance, maybe this tome might be for you, because this will always occur. That's good. And the decaying, there is quite a lot of healing in the game now, so having an answer to healing with this Blades of Decay is nice. But then that's pretty much where it stops for this tome, according to me. We have some spells. We have this druid tier 4 unit that is able to revive and heal to full unit, and we do also have this ranged unit enchantment there, but no SPI. Don't find that large of a reason to pick this tome up if you're going a ranged build. I think there are other tomes you would prefer. And the fact that, I mean, this is a tier 3 tome. We have a lot of other really good tier 3 tomes that are providing us with 3 or 4 things we like. And it could be good to mention that you need to research 4 things before you're able to get a new tome. So if you only like one thing in a tome, that's not great. I've tried to include this in several builds, but I just don't find much use of the other things in here other than the Blades of Decay. So for that reason, unfortunately, once again, I'm giving a tome quite a low grade. Only a C tier for me. Let us move on. Let's talk about the Tome of Vigor. Here I'm the opposite way around though. With the Tome of Vigor, the community in general places it in a quite mediocre state. I say it's a strong tome. I like this tome. I place it in the A tier. No SPI, true, not optimal, but the super growth transformation is great. It's great with defensive builds that are looking to be up front and just be punched, and then they can punch back in extra time, why not? But it's also really good for charge units, and there are a few really good charge units in the game now. I don't know if you've seen, but if you look into the beta of this game right now, the Dark faction has been receiving a rework, and they are now, according to me, have a really good tier 3 charge unit, and the same thing with the Oathsworn faction and so on. So a lot of good charge units in the game, and one extra retaliation attack is extra valuable for those guys, because they use their normal attack for retaliation attacks, and that's just very valuable for them to get an extra retaliation attacks. Also very good with decreased number of units information. What that means is when your unit loses one model, so to say, it loses that portion of its damage. So if it has 3 models of 3 little dudes in one unit, and you lose one of them, you lose a third health, then you lose one of your models, and then you lose out on a little bit of your damage as well. So what this reads here is the enemy need to damage you more in order for your damage to reduce. So great race transformation that fits really well in many frontline builds. But then they have this shtick where they are good at working with animals. Not only do we get a really strong unit enchantments for animals, hit points and 20% damage, as well as once again this number of units information bonus. But then we have this really good spell nowadays. If you haven't played this game in a while, you might say this is not very strong, but that's because before you weren't able to choose the animal. Now you are. And the quality of the animals we see here differs quite a lot. I like to use the example of the Ice Spider Matriarch here as an example of how much the animals can differ in quality. This animal I really like. Look at what we have here. We have an AoE frozen effect. If you run this in a build where you're having some tools to reduce their status resistance, this can be incredible. Freezing several units is very strong. So yeah, I think the spell is great. I think the unit enchantment for the animals and the transformation for your normal units. I like 3 things a lot. Yes, we have a decent spell that it's good when you get this tome, but you might not want to continue casting this in the very late game. But it's a decent spell there as well. All in all, yeah, I think it's an A-tier tome. I find many reasons to pick this up in several builds, so that's where it is for me. Where are we? We should talk about the Tome of Dragons. So, what do we have here? I really like the design of this tome. I really like the major race transformation. We have, we can check that. Draconic. There we see. They not only regenerate health from the world map, but also in the field. 10% of their max hit points each turn. If you're curious, you can watch one of my build guides where you see that I have some tier 3 units in one guide that has 190 HP, I think, toward the late game. So even on tier 3 units, this would be generating approximately 20 hit points a turn. That's really strong. And then not only that, but they have the potential to do 30% more damage. That's very substantial. And key thing to note here is, take a look at it. It says when this unit's total reaches 60% or lower, it deals 30 damage. It doesn't say when you're below 60%. So that means you can get a little bit of damage on your unit to proc this ability, the Draconic Rage, and then you can heal your guy to full, and he will still have this 30% bonus damage. That's very nice, that we don't have to stay low to get this ability. And why I chose the Oathsworn here is because this major race transformation has a major synergy with the Oathsworn culture, more specifically the Harmony subfaction, where you see here, when they drop below 60, they get a substantial heal up to 30. So if you combine these two, you will be more or less full health with 30% more damage. That's huge. So in general, I really like the Draconic transformation. I think it will be the best transformation in certain builds that interact with healing and stuff, like you saw there with the Oathsworn Harmony. And I really like the Flamer's Focus as well. Let's go back to, here we have a Battle Mage, and let us give him the Flamer's Focus there. The Flamer's Focus gives you a nice AoE ability for your mages, but not only that, it can be cast when the enemy is right in your face. You know, normally if you read here in the pop-up, it says cannot be used when within an enemy zone of control. So they can't do anything if an enemy is in their face. But if you pick up this tome and you're going battle mages, you can. You have this. You throw stuff at range, and when the enemy does reach you, you have a great option to still be very useful in that case. Normally, if you would run a build guide or a build with only mages, you would most likely need to pick up the unicorn mount, because they allow you to teleport away if someone is in your face. But here you don't have to have the unicorn mount anymore. You could just let them be in your face and then instead throw firebombs at them. So this opens up, that's why I like the design of this tome a lot. It opens up for tanky battle mages with the dragon race transformation and this great flamer focus ability. We also have a knowledge building. But the problem right now is I really tried making a tanky battle mage build. I'm not managed to do it. So right now it's very difficult for me to find a good build for this tome. I've tried a bit, but yeah, I have to place it quite low. I do place it in the C tier. Keep your eyes on this tome though. As soon as we get one or more tools that is helpful in a tanky battle mage build, this tome will be awesome. It will be amazing. So for now I have to place it in C because it simply doesn't find its way into a build. It's not completely worthless, so I can't place it in D, but I have to place it quite low, unfortunately. Alright, that's it for the tier 3 tomes. Let us talk about the tier 4 tomes. Now, as of yet, you see I've been placing all the tomes quite low, but there is merit to going nature in this game, and that's because they have so many good options for tier 4 tomes. It's worth it to pick up a somewhat mediocre tome to get to these juicy tomes in the end. Let's start with the Tome of Paradise. Yeah, I noted quickly before there when we talked about the Tome of Fertility that I really like this building, able to give you a bunch of mana in the late game. That's awesome. Towards the late game you don't want food as much, so it doesn't matter really that you're picking away 10% of your food, but instead you're getting a bunch of mana here. Very useful. Really like this one. I really like the major race transformation. If you're looking to be tanky, this major transformation is great. Some hit points, you ignore scary effects more often, but also you see there we are able to heal better. That's awesome for a frontline tanky build. So this finds its way into many builds looking to be hard to punch. So 2 things so far that I really like. And then we have this Blessing of Paradise, also great. When you have a positive city stability, I think you get like 10 and 20 and so more resources. So doubling this is huge, and 40 city stability is also very nice. Could be good to note that the new Dark faction, they reworked it, as I said there in the beta. They have some really strong buildings that gives them a bunch of gold but negative stability. So a tome like this is now extra useful for the dark faction, where they're able to solve a problem for the dark faction with the increased its stability. And then lastly, I really like the Enchanted Bloom terraforming spell. It makes it so that all of your provinces slowly and steadily become grassland and forest. And there are a lot of previous SPIs in this nature affinity that interact really well with grassland and forest. So this will make it so that a bunch of buildings you've built in your cities already get even better. Not only that, but then you just get 2/2 as well. So this is giving you a bunch of stats. So 3 things I love, 4 things actually: the SPI, the city stability gain, the transformation. You could say that this is quite good. Yeah, you're only going to be having plants in your kingdom now, that you've just transformed them into plants, and this gives them 1 rank. But the first rank is so easy to achieve anyway. It's not many experience points. So I think I will most likely skip out on this city spell. Same thing with this, might not pick it up. But still, 4 things that are amazing according to me. So I think it's a clear A tier, maybe even an S tier. But as I said earlier, everything is in a tier list. You have to weigh these tomes against each other, and when we look at this other tome, I think this deserves 1 spot over some of these other tomes, and that is the Tome of Prosperity. We get an, according to me, great SPI. Once again, in the late game, food is not as important to us. We've already managed to create some large cities at this point. So converting that and getting a bunch of gold, amazing. It gives you some more alternatives for unit roster there with the Blessed Dragon and so on. Great. And the Blessed Armors are amazing as well. I would have liked this if it was just +2 resistance. But now every turn they give you 1 grace, able to heal you for 10. Interacts really well with the plant people who have increased healing. They will interact with the synergize with the inner grace. So already two things I really like. I think this Grand Protection spell is one of, if not the best spell in the game. Look at what it gives you. If it would have been 1 grace, it would have still been amazing. I think I would have loved this spell even if it was a 1 hex radius. I just think it's overtuned a little bit. Yes, it's a tier 4 spell with 40 combat points, but still I think it's very good. And then the other things are also good in this. Look here, you're getting a bunch of stats here with the golden mana. A very good tier 5 unit that you might be running 1 of in each of your armies. It's just an over-tuned tome. I think they should nerf it actually, even though I love it and have it in several of my builds. I think it's a clear winner in the S tier. 2 more tomes to go. Thank you for sticking out, guys. It's been a long video so far. This tome the community loves. I don't love it quite as much. The community, the Age of Wonders 4 community out there seem to be rating it into like an S tier or a A tier. I'm ranking it into a B tier. Yes, they have a really good unit. They have a tier 4 skirmisher with a nice AoE ability, able to punch 3 people in a line for quite a lot of damage. And you see there it just afflicts electrified. It doesn't check for status resistance or anything like that. Very good. Storm strikes, a little bit of AoE, very good as well. Yeah, just a good unit, I will admit to that. What else do we have? We have a major race transformation giving you fast movement. That's huge. Sometimes some cultures and some tomes have really strong units, but they have a weakness where they where they are slow. And so this helps you out for those units that can't pick up a mount. They could just become Naga instead. They're also good at surviving. So yeah, the race transformation is definitely decent. But you know, no SPI. Yes, quite a few resources if you're close to water with your cities. But other than that, I think this is a good tome. But does it have as many cool stuff as the Tome of Paradise and the Tome of Prosperity? I think not. So I think it belongs in the B tier. It's a tier 4 tome. When it's a tier 4 tome, you're right to expect a lot from it. It needs to wow you at this point. And this didn't quite wow me. In many cases, I would just rather have some of these other tier 4 tomes that the game has to offer. Great. What else do we have? Yes, the next tome is Tome of Nature's Wrath. You see here, grants powerful spells. That's what this tome is focusing on. And they were not kidding. This is just spells. Look at this. Summon spell, healing spell, summon spell, terraforming spell, debuff spell. This is all this tome does. And I don't like it. I think they should rework this tome. I unfortunately place this in the D tier. I find there is never a reason to pick up this tome in any build. And the reason why I'm that harsh toward it is you cannot cast an unlimited amount of spells. You only have that much world map casting points, and you are only able to cast that many spells in a combat. So, and at this point, you've unlocked 7 or so tomes before you're even able to reach tier 4 tomes. So you picked up some spells normally anyway. And the other tier 4 tomes have other great stuff and a good spell, you know? If we take a look at the Prosperity here. The Tome of Prosperity has good unit enchantments and structures and everything, and they have a great spell. Nature's Wrath has nothing. It doesn't have an SPI even. Empty, just spells. I never think you should be picking up this tome. I'm sorry, I'm very harsh. Let's move on to the last tome. Tome of the Goddess of Nature. Clear S tier tome for me. Let's move it up, actually, way up here. Yeah, it has a lot of really good things. You have great utility with world vision, and the forests are plenty, so you will more or less see most of what you need to see in the whole game. And then we have a great unit enchantment working on everything. You see, it's not tied to a melee or a ranged or a base melee attack or a base ranged attack. It just affects everything. Great. Critical hit chance is always welcome. It's not only a good way to do damage, but a good way to reduce morale. Yeah, a great unit enchantment being relevant in all builds. All builds like this. And then you have a good AoE heal. Also really good, because in the late game you might be running around with 3 armies, you know, and there might be a 18 versus 18 battle. Maybe you summon a couple of extra units as well, so you're ending up with like 23 units, and then this heals everything. Yeah, no, nothing to debate there really. It's a clear S tier tome. It's my favorite tier 5 tome out of all tier 5 tomes. So there we have it, guys. Thank you for sticking around, and this is the end result. We have a few tomes up there, so for that reason, don't be disappointed that I was quite harsh on some of the nature tomes. Nature Affinity is still absolutely relevant in this game, and hopefully they can rework some of these tomes that I think need some love. I would really love for these 3 at least to be looked at a little bit. But yeah, that's it. Good luck out there, and hope that you found something in here useful. Please leave a comment and let me know if I have missed out on something. I appreciate some feedback.